Have you ever felt like your life is in shambles, with everything you've built crumbling down around you? In times of hardship and heartache, it's easy to feel hopeless and alone. But fear not, for there is a divine power that specializes in taking the broken pieces of our lives and weaving them into something far greater than we could have ever imagined. This is the power of restoration, a divine promise from a God who can rebuild and restore even the most shattered lives. Dive into this inspiring journey as we uncover the stories of those who've risen from the ashes, the secrets to unwavering faith in the face of adversity, and the transformative power of God's love and grace. Your life may be far from over. In fact, this may be just the beginning of a new chapter filled with hope, restoration, and God's abundant blessings. Instead of going through worry and sadness, it's best for you to recognize that God is more than abundantly able to restore you and rebuild what you've lost. God can rebuild what's been ruined and caused it to shine like the wonder that it is and was always meant to be, and much more. He has the power to take you up and place you back on the mountain of prosperity and strength in God. Don't panic. Your life is far from over. In fact, your current situation is an opportunity for God to prove Himself again. The main thing that's required from you at this point is unwavering faith and patience. Put your trust in God. Cast your cares upon the Lord. Ask Him to rebuild that thing or aspect of your life that's broken. He will hear your prayers and answer you because God never disappoints. He will rebuild you. He will restore you and make you satisfied. What does it mean to need or rebuild a restoration? It simply means that a structure which was once present, beautiful and effective, has reduced in quality or become non-existent. It means that the glory which a thing once had has evaporated or become empty. There are troubles in life that occur with the aim of bringing God's people to permanent ruin and irrelevance. There are evil forces of the spirit realm that put in so much effort to ensure that the destinies of the children of God are jeopardized. And times may arrive when it seems like their aim has been achieved. However, despite what the reality might seem, your mind must be strengthened in line with God's ability to rebuild and restore. He can make ways where there seem to be none. The Lord has the capability to cause things to have a tangible shift and a breakthrough. The book of Ezekiel chapter 36 verse 11 says, "And I will multiply upon you man and beast, and they shall increase and be fruitful. And I will cause you to be inhabited according to your former estate. And I will do better for you than at your beginnings. And you shall now understand and realize that I am the Lord, the sovereign ruler who calls forth loyalty and obedient service." God doesn't just restore, He surpasses the original state, blessing us even more abundantly. He breathes life into areas of our lives that seem lifeless, bringing about a restoration that transcends our wildest expectations. Life's trials and tribulations might leave us feeling as though we're in ruins. But in God's hands, these ruins become the foundation for a magnificent new structure. This is the divine nature of God's restoration. It's never a simple repair. It's an elevation, a transformation into something far greater than before. God is always willing and ready to restore those who've depreciated or regressed backward from the place of power, authority, and abundance. One of the things that crippled the faith of people in need of restoration is the presence of fear and an absence of hope and faith in the restoring power of God. Sometimes Even when they seem to believe in God, they don't believe in themselves. They may not want to go through the journey or process of building again, and their attitude may reflect their tacit willingness to just simply give up and to keep living and existing in their current state of backwardness and ruin. All believers must understand that our journey in life is continuous and that it has to be continually filled with the wonders of God, which makes us testimonies of His faithfulness, even to those in the world who need to be saved. We must have a burning desire to do the most, as long as it glorifies our Father in heaven. The whole process may be a huge burden. It might even have a lot to consider. However, there must be a zeal to allow the Lord to glorify Himself in our lives. Nehemiah showed this zeal when he realized the disgrace and shame associated with the fact that the walls of Jerusalem were in ruins, and he decided to use his position to do something about it. The Babylonian captivity of the children of Israel had grossly affected them. They faced destruction and exile even as their infrastructures and their walls were heavily damaged. A city with broken walls revealed the defeated people, and the Jews who had returned to their homeland lived both in unsafe conditions and humiliation because they were residing in an immensely destroyed city. But it's essential to remember that God's love and mercy are unending, and His power is limitless. He offers His children the strength and courage to overcome their trials and tribulations, to rise from the ruins, and to rebuild their lives with renewed hope and faith. We must keep our eyes fixed on God, lean on His understanding, and trust in His plan for us. No matter how dire the circumstances may seem, remember that God's promise of restoration still stands. Restoration is not a passive process. It requires our active participation. We must be willing to surrender our fears, doubts, and insecurities to God and allow Him to work His magic in our lives. We must be ready to put in the hard work, to persevere through the trials, and to remain steadfast in our faith. Like a phoenix rising from its ashes, we too can emerge stronger, wiser, and more resilient from our struggles, shining brightly with the glory of God's love and grace. The book of Nehemiah, chapter 2, verse 20 says, "Then answered I them, and sat under them the God of heaven. He will prosper us. Therefore, we His servants will arise and build. But you have no portion, nor right, nor memorial in Jerusalem." Nehemiah believed in God's readiness. He believed God was prepared to rebuild and restore that which was broken, and he exercised his faith towards rebuilding the ruined walls of Jerusalem. Believers can learn to emulate Nehemiah even when it's not comfortable, and people around you are showering you with words of discouragement to inspire fear in you. There must be a firm resolve to believe in God and take progressive action towards rebuilding in the light of His wisdom. Another good example of persevere and restoration is Job. Job was a man of wealth and substance. He lost everything. He lost his children, his servants, his prized possessions. But he never gave up on God. Instead, he sought to discover Him regardless. The story of Job also properly depicts God's abundance in restoration. Here was a good and righteous man who was reduced and led to bewilderment by what had happened in his life. Yet even though all these terrible things had happened to Job, he didn't turn away from his hunger to discover God. He maintained his faith and belief. He persevered despite many instances of his loved ones telling him to curse God and hopelessly go the way of death. He triumphed, and God replenished him much more abundantly than his previous glory. The Lord exceedingly blessed the latter part of Job's life more than the first. And that is what restoration is all about. In our own lives, we may face circumstances akin to Job's, where everything seems to crumble around us. It's in these moments that our faith is tested the most, where our resolve to trust in God's plan is truly put to the test. Like Job, we must steadfastly hold onto our faith, even when it seems like everything is working against us. Because in the end, just as God restored Job, He promises to restore us, blessing us abundantly more than before. This is the promise of restoration that we hold on to as believers. As not only will something broken be rebuilt, it will be made to be much better than it originally was. God is extremely capable of righting every wrong and making things better. No matter the predicament of our lives, no matter the ruin or the extent to which things have broken down, we must always believe in God for restoration, as He will give us the strength and grace for rebuilding and intervene to make things better. God, in His miraculous ways, can change the status quo, and we are to pray and ask Him in faith to rebuild and restore things that are broken. The book of Ephesians chapter 3 verse 20 says, "Now unto Him who is able to do exceeding abundantly, above all that we can ask or think according to the power that works in us." God Himself has sent us His word and has assured us of His divine restoration. When life beats us down and we feel broken, we must remember that we serve a God who specializes in restoration. He takes our fragments and, with divine craftsmanship, weaves them into a tapestry of grace and beauty. As children of God, we can rest in the assurance that our current trials are not the end of our story. Instead, they are stepping stones to a new chapter filled with hope, restoration, and God's abundant blessings. The book of Joel chapter 2 verses 25 through 26 says, "And I will restore to you the years that the locust have eaten, the cankerworm and the caterpillar and the palmer were my great army, which I sent among you. And he shall eat it plenty, and be satisfied and praise the name of the Lord your God, that He has dwelt wondrously with you. And my people shall never be ashamed." God has given His assurance that He will take that which is broken and put it together again and make it better than it was before. He will take those broken and shattered pieces in your life, build them together with His love, and make them extremely strong in the areas where they were once weak. God has promised us abundant restoration, and we must benefit from it by being steadfast in faith. No matter your past and no matter your struggles, do not be afraid, anxious, or hopeless. God will restore and rebuild your life. Our journey, like the refining of gold, is laden with trials and tribulations. However, it is through these trials that our faith is refined, our character is built, and our relationship with God is deepened. Let me say this before we round off. You must strive to be valuable. But what does being valuable entail? It means possessing the ability to offer solutions that are both needed and useful within the context of society. The Bible says, "Seest thou a man diligent in his business? He will stand before kings and not mere men." Listen, to truly excel, you must not only be valuable, but exceptionally so. The concept of the kingdom operates on a reward system. It's important to understand this. Your value is indicated by who seeks you out and the extent of inconvenience others are willing to endure to gain access to you. Consider the story of Joseph in the Bible. Even though he didn't gain much for interpreting the baker's dream, his actions ultimately led him to the palace. Similarly, David received great rewards for defeating Goliath. Jesus is worshipped as the King of Kings because of his unparalleled value. He has accomplished what no other gods or human could, forgiving sins and rescuing people from darkness. His victory over death and his resurrection demonstrate his immense value. Strive to be valuable and allow God to help you in achieving it. Do not let fear or the devil prevent you from realizing your full potential.